What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and the New York Giants will be having their fourth starting offensive line configuration in just as many weeks going into Week 4, but this is a good thing because the Giants are getting a couple of key starters back for this upcoming matchup on Monday Night Football against the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Andrew Thomas is expected to return to the lineup, thank the Lord. It can't be understated how important Andrew Thomas is to the New York Giants offense, and we are thankful that he will be back in the lineup, hopefully against the Seattle Seahawks on Monday night. But also, Ben Bredesen is expected to return to the lineup. Now, he missed Week 3 with a concussion, suffered in the Week 2 win over the Arizona Cardinals, missed his last week's game, but is expected to clear the protocol by the end of the week and be back in the lineup for Monday night. So, Ben Bredesen, arguably the best interior offensive lineman on the Giants right now, and of course, Andrew Thomas, arguably the best player on the New York Giants, maybe outside of Dexter Lawrence right now. So, some huge reinforcements coming to the New York Giants offensive line. We're going to go ahead and talk about the starting offensive line configuration because outside of those two players, there's also a little bit of a surprise over at the right guard spot that we're going to go ahead, dive into, and give you the breakdown on this new offensive line going into Week 4. But before we do all that, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what are your thoughts on this new projected offensive line?
I'm doing pretty good now. We need Andrew Thomas and Ben Bredesen back, my friends. We need them back badly. So the Seattle Seahawks are getting back Jamal Adams for the first time since Week 1 of last year. And of course, it happens to come against the Giants. It always does, guys, getting back these big players and impact players. Now, I don't know how much she's actually going to play, but it definitely throws an extra little wrinkle into their defensive system, which, traditionally they get pretty creative at times, and they're going to be spying on Daniel Jones. We're going to see an old friend there, Julian Love, and he knows our offense. So that's kind of a bad thing for us. We're going to have to get a little creative and do some things they're not expecting, and we've seen the Giants do that in the past. Last week we really saw them run this vanilla offense. They didn't really get much creativity involved, and as we all saw, it stifled their momentum, and it was a lost cause from the start because we didn't have Thomas or Ben Bredesen, and getting those guys back is more impactful than probably anything else. Like, yes, Saquon Barkley, getting him back is paramount as well, but I'd argue that getting Bredesen and AT is much more impactful just because you can't throw the ball. Like, we watch the Giants offense, and we literally cannot get rid of the football. Daniel Jones cannot throw the ball unless he has a little bit of time. And, there's a lot of narratives, a lot of people coming out on social media and whatnot saying, look what Geno Smith did with all this pressure. He was missing his 2 tackles and this and that. And, Daniel Jones hasn't been able to replicate some of that success without some of his best players. But, the Giants offensive line is just something of legend, something you hear, a devastation and apocalypse level type of situation for a long time now. And ultimately, Andrew Thomas and Bredesen on the left side at least gives the Giants a strong suit they can work with. They can scheme to help Marcus McKethan and Evan Neal and, give Daniel Bellinger some extra opportunities to chip off the edge and just give them a little bit of support. But when you also have a bad left side, it becomes problematic. And Shane Lemieux, my friends, good Lord, man. I've never seen a player worse than that last week. I mean, he was just god-awful, and I hope to God we don't have to see him again this season because I just do not trust him, and, nothing against him as a guy. I don't really know him, but, as a player, we haven't seen him in 2 years, and he walks in and gives up 3 sacks, and it's like, all right, I think we can all assume that maybe he's not the best option at left guard. Ben Bredesen he's passed all the protocols aside from practicing for the week, so expectations, he'll practice this week, he'll be ready to go on Monday, and we'll be in a much better spot. Glowinski, his role is seemingly behind him. He is not incorporated on this starting team any longer. We have Marcus McKethan at right guard, and a lot of people are asking me, we need to get Josh Azudu in, and we need to find ways to get him involved in this offense. But guys, let me just throw this idea out there. Having a good backup offensive lineman is not a bad thing. Having a good backup, healthy offensive lineman is a good thing to have. Not a lot of teams have good backups. And yes, do I want to get Azudu worked in at some point if need be? Sure, I'm not opposed to the idea. But if you have McKethan who's getting better, they like him, they think there's some potential there, I'm willing to give him some opportunities. Evan Neal, clearly they're not going to abandon their first-round pick from 2 years ago. I think that having Azudu as a guy that can step in, help replace, a left guard, a left tackle, a right guard, whatever it might be, that's a huge bonus. Like, you need to have players like that. The Giants have gone through so many injuries in the past. Having someone who can step in and supplement those spots, the value is there. Like, you can't overlook that value. So, yes, I'd love to see Azudu get a starting job and, maintain it and become really good. But don't discount his value as a first option reserve because like you need players like that. Matt Parrott, we all know not many trust him. Maybe Anthony, you still do, but I know a lot of people don't trust Matt Parrott anymore. So what are you thinking about Marcus McKethan at right guard? And I know that's kind of a big storyline and, giving him an opportunity to win that job. I think I'm on board with giving him the chance because I think I've seen enough to warrant at least some optimism moving forward.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about needing a solid backup offensive lineman and how that could be Josh Azidu, but I would counterpoint and say that could be Marcus McKethan because he's the one that stepped in as an expected backup here. They were expecting Josh Azidu to take a starting job at some point this season, so now that there's an opportunity for one of these two guys to take this starting job, I am a little bit surprised that they didn't give Josh Azidu the first crack at it. Instead, it's going to Marcus McKethan. He has been playing the position for the last 2 weeks, and I think it makes sense for him to continue to play the position because of something that I mentioned in our last episode, Alex, continuity, right? That's something that's been missing from the New York Giants offensive line all season long, and even dating back to the last 5 seasons where Daniel Jones has had a different starting center every single week one of his career. So getting continuity on this offensive line is really important because with this new starting center that we have, John Michael Schmitz calling out protections, signaling, and communicating on the offensive line, it's a little bit difficult when you have a different guy lining up to you every single week or even sometimes every other drive. So with Marcus McKethan here, now he can kind of continue to play in this role, and if he continues to play well, it does provide that added sense of continuity that John Michael Schmitz and Daniel Jones have really been missing through the first 3 weeks of the season. So while I may have been in the camp of wanting to see Josh Azidu take that starting job, I'm not going to complain too much about Marcus McKethan taking it because he has earned it. He's earned the right to start there, and it does benefit John Michael Schmitz and Daniel Jones a lot to have some continuity there. And also Evan Neal. Evan Neal has been a dumpster fire this season, let's be honest. He's been a real struggle at that right tackle spot, a liability most of the time. But he's also had a revolving door of offensive guards playing next to him. Now he has 3 weeks here with Marcus McKethan to kind of, really get this chemistry going, get that continuity to his left side, and I think that's important for Evan Neal as well. So really, you're talking about that entire right side of the offensive line now having an opportunity to gel and come together and gain some chemistry. So while it might be surprising that Josh Azidu didn't get the nod for the starting job, considering the way that he came in and played on a tight pinch at left tackle, was playing left guard and right guard beforehand, he shocked us all, and he played some great football at that left tackle spot in reserve of Andrew Thomas, but Marcus McKethan also shocked us all and also played really well at that right guard spot, and he actually is a right guard. Azidu was primarily a left guard throughout preseason. McKethan was primarily playing at right guard, so he is a little bit more prepared to take that right guard spot as opposed to the left guard spot, and also, like I said, having somebody in there who can continue to gel with Evan Neal and John Michael Schmitz is not just important for the success of the offensive line, but also for the development of those two young players. John Michael Schmitz, I have no worries about him. I think he's going to be a great center for the Giants for the next 5+ years. Now, Evan Neal, I don't feel as confident in after a really, really poor rookie season and a really tough start to this second season for Evan Neal. I'm not super confident in him. So whatever we can do to get some solid development or just, some extra pieces around him to help him develop, whether that be some continuity at the right guard spot, then let's do it. If it benefits Evan Neal, it benefits John Michael Schmitz, and it benefits the Giants at that right guard spot, then I think that Marcus McKethan is the right pick to go ahead and start this week 4 matchup. So it'll be interesting to see how McKethan continues to play. I thought he's been a little bit up and down. Again, I think he's earned the right to continue to start. Really solid run blocking performance in week 2, week 3. I mean, everybody struggled in pass protection against that San Francisco 49ers defensive front, but Marcus McKethan also did struggle pretty badly against some of those interior defensive linemen. Now he's going to go ahead against Seattle. Let's see how Marcus McKethan fares. Do I think that this is Brian Daboll locking in Marcus McKethan as the starter for the rest of the season? No, absolutely not. I think that he and pretty much everybody on this offensive line outside of Andrew Thomas is wearing a pretty short leash right now. I think that if Evan Neal continues to struggle, you could see Josh Azidu earn that starting job there at right tackle, and then maybe they'll try and see what they want to do with Evan Neal, trade him away, move him into guard. We'll see. So it'll be really interesting to watch how this pans out. But right now, I think Marcus McKethan, that is the right selection for the right guard starting gig, and we'll see if he can have a positive impact on a few of those other players around him, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, this offensive line has been a talk of the town for a long time, my friends. And I think the Giants, what they're trying to do is not get too flustered too early. I know a lot of us are concerned, including myself and Anthony, but I think that they still view this as a building process. I think they went into the season saying, all right, Andrew Thomas, we locked him down. Like, that's our guy. Ben Bredeson, serviceable starter. He's a decent player. I like Ben Bredeson. John Michael Schmitz, we address the center position. We have a young rookie. I think right now they're thinking to themselves, if AT, Bredeson, and John Michael Schmitz stay healthy and start gelling and playing consistently, they're going to become a very good, trio right there. But the right side is a different conversation. Marcus McKethan, and of course you have Evan Neal. Glowinski was never supposed to be a long-term player. We signed him because we didn't have a choice. We had no guard. We let Kevin Zeitler go a couple years ago, and ultimately we needed somebody, and we had a little bit of money to spend, and we had to give Daniel Jones a fighting chance. So Glowinski's the guy, and they were like, okay, we have Saquon Barkley. He was a really good run blocker with the Colts. Let's see if we can replicate that. Obviously hasn't really gone on how we estimated, but after this year, he's probably gone next season. So take that money, you roll it into another spot of weakness, and Evan Neal. Like think about it like this: if Andrew Thomas, Ben Bredeson, and John Michael Schmitz are all healthy, playing, consistently, we're not worried about those three guys. Like we know JMS is going to struggle a little bit, but we're not worried because he already has a pretty high floor. Evan Neal, if he panned out up to this point, if he was looking good, we wouldn't really be having these conversations right now. You know what I mean? Like it really came down to like the health of two of our starters, which is unpredictable. And then right tackle being a massive liability to start the year. But if it wasn't a big problem, we may not be having this conversation, but instead we are. But I don't think the Giants are willing to give up on Evan Neal just yet. He looked a little bit better against the 49ers. He looked a little bit better against Arizona. So I think that they saw him step up and at least give like some effort, had put some decent stuff on the film against the 49ers, which have an elite pass rush. Now you're going up against Seattle. They have according to PFF, they have the 12th best pass rush in football. They have 6 sacks and like 62 pressures. They're not bad at all. They dial up some decent creative blitz concepts. And, if I'm the Giants, Evan Neal, if he steps up over the next couple weeks and you get some of those guys back, you're in a much better situation. I think Marcus McKethan will get better gradually as well. So I don't think they're willing to give up. I think they're thinking of it like glass half full. And meanwhile, like you and I and a lot of other people are thinking glass half empty. And I don't think that they've proven to us that they deserve to get the glass half full perspective just yet. So for now, as Giants fans, naturally, I'm thinking worst case scenario because that's what we've been conditioned to believe in. I really want to stay positive. I want to give them benefit of the doubt. And I do trust the front office still and the coaching staff. I know they can turn this thing around, but we need to see like a full, complete game, like a full game where they play at a relatively high level. You know what I mean, Anthony? Like we can't be seeing like the first half of games they suck and then the second half they're trying to fight from behind. Like that's not a sustainable strategy. And that's what's concerning to me is that the Giants are playing for the second half at times when you need to come out guns blazing. You need to come out fighting and putting points on the board and showcasing your best self in the first half and not trying to fight back in the second half. Like you're not going to win games like that against good NFL teams. You know what I mean? Cowboys, San Francisco, like we got completely demoralized against them because we didn't do anything in the first half. And, it comes down to the trenches at the end of the day on both sides of the football. And that's what the Giants have built a lineage over. That's what they've built a history on. Aggressive pass rush, really good front four, and a really solid offensive line before the last decade. They've really set the tone of like we dominate the trenches, and that's where we start from. And in my opinion, that has fallen by the wayside in past years. Like, for example, how do the Philadelphia Eagles land the number one player in the draft in Jalen Carter, and they are just coming off a Super Bowl appearance? Like, that's really questionable. Like, it's like, wow, okay, like, they're walking away with the best talents in football and, like, don't have really high draft picks all the time. They get Nolan Smith as well, a solid player. So you're, like, wondering to yourself, the Giants end up with these guys, and they have, like, top 10 picks all the time, apparently. Or realistically, we have top 15 picks, like, every other year at this rate. So it's like, how are we missing on some of those players, but they're falling into these great guys and they're being coached up and turned into amazing players. And like that kind of leads back into a little bit of an off-topic tangent, Anthony, when it comes to like Kayvon Thibodeau and how Wink Martindale is using him, like dropping Kayvon into coverage, and they're not really using Kayvon to his strengths at times. And I think that, we'll look back at some sayings from past Giants GMs, which who shall not be named. You don't try to fit square pegs into round holes. And I feel like sometimes the Giants still do that. Like they're trying to force players into positions where that's not their strength. Like Kayvon Thibodeau should not be in coverage, objectively. I get outside linebackers do it every now and then, but you've been harping on this for 2 weeks now, and I think you have a valid point. Like he should be pass rushing every single down, or at least if he's going to drop into coverage once or twice a game maximum, because he needs to be building out that pass rush, setting things up for future in the game. and really like getting the momentum and flow. Instead, they're just disrupting him. Then he gets that penalty in the red zone on third down, and you're like, oh my God, like, you can't have these mistakes. But how do you expect Kayvon Thibodeau to cover somebody? He's a pass rusher. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is where I get a little confused. The Giants are blitzing at astronomical rates, but they need their front four to win. Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Azeez Ojulari when he's healthy, but I won't factor him in there now, and Kayvon Thibodeau, those three guys at least should be able to win 1v1 battles regularly. The fact that it's only Dexter Lawrence doing that is a bit concerning. So I don't really know what's going on here. Both sides of the trenches have been really, really poor. But it's going to come down to how much these guys want it. Are they going to face adversity and fight back, or are they going to let it overcome them? And I think that's really where we're going to see the mental makeup of this team. Are these guys really, is this a brotherhood? Do these guys really have it? Do they really want to fight? Do they want to put in that effort when all odds are against them? That's where we're going to see this Giants team rise to the occasion. Beating the Seahawks would go a long way toward giving us some hope and some faith. But we have a tough schedule, guys. We got Miami coming up on October 7th, right? They just beat the living crap out of the Denver Broncos. Like, we have a really difficult schedule. If we don't step up and start putting our best foot forward and, tackling well, getting rid of those fundamental mistakes and, really putting the foot to the metal and the gas pedal on, like, this is going to look ugly unless everyone, like, it comes to conclusion at the same time. And ultimately, like, right now, I'm a little concerned about the lack of full team effort, like everything firing on all cylinders. But we know we're capable of it. We've seen it. It's just a matter of doing it one time and then suddenly, like, you can compound on that. But one half isn't going to cut it. The Giants have to put together a full, strong game, and then I think we'll be able to see this team click a little bit more. I guess the cohesion will be better, the efficiency will be better, the production will be better, but they got to put one good game on the field first. A full 4-quarter performance, not a half, not a quarter, a full freaking game, and that's when I think we'll take that big step forward.
Yeah, and I think having that full 4-quarter performance really starts with getting off to a hot start, not waiting until the second, the third, or the fourth quarter to put it on. I think the Giants need to get themselves in a groove in the first quarter in this Week 4 matchup. Like, they got to go out there, guns blazing. Mike Kafka script together a really good first drive. Whether you're relying on the ground or you're dialing up a nice passing concept and you're getting the ball downfield to Darren Waller and scoring a touchdown on the first drive, that's something the New York Giants need to do. To my knowledge, I'm pretty sure they haven't had a first drive touchdown just yet this season. So, I'd like to see an opening drive touchdown in Week 4. Set the tone early, get this team into a groove, and that way you can win a football game. And that goes for pretty much every aspect of this team, though. It's not just about Daniel Jones having a good opening drive and scoring a touchdown. It's also about the offensive line protecting. They almost did it in Week 1. They got themselves down into the red zone, and then the offensive line fell apart. There was the miscue on the snap from John Michael Schmitz. There was the false start from Andrew Thomas, and then of course the field goal gets blocked. So everything just came crashing down all at once in Week 1, as we know. No need to retread that. But then Week 2, first drive, not so great. Week 3, first drive, not so great. I'd like to see the Giants just get off to a good start on their first drive in this upcoming matchup and set the tone so that way they have the momentum going and they can finish through all 4 quarters. Then you're looking at the defense as well. I like what you were saying there, Alex, about fitting players into a box and kind of using them incorrectly. We need to see Kayvon Thibodeau stop dropping back into coverage. We need to see him get after the quarterback, rush the passer, and watch this whole defense have a consistent outing, tackling well, getting after the quarterback, and making plays in coverage through all 4 quarters. And then I think that the New York Giants can hopefully find themselves on the right track here and start to pick up some wins as the season winds on. But it's all about that continuity as well. We talked about it on the offensive line. I think it goes for the defensive line, for the linebacker core, for the secondary. It's all about staying healthy and keeping continuity, letting this defense gel, and simplifying things on the defensive side of the ball, because I've said way too many times now that this defense seems to be too complex for a lot of these players, and it's causing them to be fatigued, causing them to miss a lot of tackles as well, and causing other teams to really pick apart those blitzes that Wink Martindale is sending at a highly frequent rate. So I think that the New York Giants are in a good shape here to turn things around. They have this 10-day break between this Thursday night game that they just played and this upcoming Monday night game, so it should be interesting to see how they game plan for this upcoming Seattle matchup. Seattle has looked pretty good this year, a little bit inconsistent, but they've definitely looked a little bit better than the New York Giants have in recent weeks. So hopefully this is a get-right game for the Giants at home on a Monday night. It's going to be tough playing in prime time. We know that the Giants haven't fared well in prime time recently, but just maybe they can go ahead in this upcoming Week 4 matchup and try and see if they can get that continuity, that strong start in the first quarter, and carry it on throughout the fourth quarter and get themselves a nice win. But really excited to see how this newly configured offensive line works out in this Week 4 match. I think that, it's a huge plus to get Andrew Thomas back, obviously, and I'm excited to see what Marcus McKethan can do at that right guard spot. And getting Ben Bredesen back, guys, don't sleep on how important that is to this offensive line, because through those first 2 weeks before that injury, he was looking like a really good interior offensive lineman for the Giants, at least in comparison to other Giants interior offensive linemen. He looked really good. So something to be excited about. 2 big-time players coming back to the Giants starting lineup. And of course, like we said, getting off to a hot start will be the key to winning this game. And we're going to be really excited to continue to cover this game and everything else about the New York Giants for the days leading up to this Monday night matchup. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
TVSO.